Okay, so let's dive into this. We've all spent, well, years debating the end of Game of Thrones, right? Usually focusing on Jon or Daenerys, maybe Cersei.
The big players.
Exactly. But
Yeah.
the sources we're looking at today kind of pull us away from, the dragon fire and the Iron Throne itself.
Yeah, they argue that the real winners, if you can call them that, were maybe the ones who succeeded differently.
How so?
Through things like quiet power, maybe, wit, endurance, loyalty, not necessarily grabbing for the crown.
Right. So that's our mission here then.
Yeah.
To look beyond the obvious power players.
That's the idea. We're digging into these sources that point to these, maybe unsung heroes is the right term.
I like that. And trying to understand why their contributions were so crucial. Like why integrity and knowledge actually mattered for what came next.
Precisely. How that secured the realm's future, not just another conquest.
It's a really interesting way to frame it. So we're going to explore how, say, pure intellect like Samwell Tarly.
Oh, definitely Samwell.
And maybe the sheer moral victory of someone like Brienne of Tarth, how those things ended up being more effective, maybe more lasting than armies and dragons.
Well, if we look at Samwell first, the sources really position him as a key example of knowledge being power.
Yeah.
And he wasn't a fighter, was he? Never his strength.
Not at all.
Yet the sources stress that his work discovering the truth about Dragonglass, saving all those books, preserving history that was essential, both for survival against the Night King and for building whatever came next.
And it's more than just saving dusty old books, isn't it? Sam becoming Grand Maester. That kind of puts a stamp on it. It says knowledge matters now, right at the top.
It makes intellectual merit almost a requirement for the new Westeros. It's like building a safeguard, so that the old, purely power-driven mistakes maybe won't happen so easily again. Knowledge is embedded in the structure.
Okay, so that's the sort of institutional win through knowledge, Samwell. What about Brienne? You mentioned moral victory.
Yeah, if Sam shows the power of knowing things, Brienne, she shows how integrity can create its own kind of strength, especially in a world that was just so cynical and opportunistic.
Her win wasn't about battles, was it? It was about keeping her word, fulfilling oaths when nobody else seemed to care much about them.
Exactly. And the sources point out that her knighting, her ending up in the Kingsguard, that wasn't just her moment, it was bigger.
A symbol.
A symbol, yeah. A quiet kind of revolution suggesting that maybe, just maybe, morality could endure, that it had a place.
So her place in the Kingsguard means justice might stick around. Okay. But there's also Davos Seaworth. Loyalty, humility. The sources bring him up too.
The Onion Knight. From smuggler to essentially the conscience of the small council.
But hang on, he served quite a few people, didn't he? Stannis, then Jon, then Bran. Is that just loyalty? Or maybe something deeper, like basic decency?
That's a great point. Maybe it is more about decency. He survived, didn't he? And not through ambition. It seems like his conviction was always about, the ordinary folk.
Yeah, he always seemed grounded.
Right. While others were playing the game, burning things down, he was, in his own way, trying to build things up, representing that voice of the common person right there on the council.
It suggests that maybe usefulness and just basic goodness are better long-term survival strategies than ruthlessness.
Seems that way. And then there's endurance, Sansa Stark.
Sansa. She didn't want the Iron Throne, but she definitely played the game and won in her own way.
Absolutely. She outmaneuvered people like Littlefinger, protected her home, and secured independence for the North. That's huge.
So how did she do it? Not dragons, not armies, really.
No. It was wisdom, wasn't it? Wisdom earned through incredible suffering. She became this ultimate political realist. The sources frame her ruling the North as proof that strategic intelligence, emotional intelligence too, can carve out the most stable kind of victory, taking her people out of the central destructive demon entirely.
Okay, so wrapping this up, what's the big takeaway from our deep dive today?
Well, the sources seem to suggest, pretty elegantly actually, that the real victory, the lasting one, belonged to those who were aiming for something different. Peace, truth, justice.
Without completely losing themselves in the process.
Exactly, without losing their humanity. So the Samwells, the Briennes, the Davoses, the Sansas, they're the ones who actually carried the realm forward.
Kind of connects back to that Tyrion quote the sources mentioned, doesn't it?
There's nothing more powerful in the world than a good story. Yeah. These quiet victors, their lives, their choices, that's the better story that ended up replacing the old bloody one of conquest.
Which really makes you think, doesn't it, about how governance itself might change. If Bran's reign built on knowledge and story, marks the end of the Game of Thrones.
Because knowledge and maybe decentralized power started to matter more than brute force.
Right. So the question for you listening is, if that's the lesson from Westeros, where do we see that playing out now, in our world, in politics, maybe business? Are there stories unfolding where, quiet integrity or hard-won knowledge is actually winning out over raw power? Something to think about.